the Harris campaign. I think that there was an issue that was racial. I think it was gender, but I also think class played a major role in it.
Oh, there wasn't, honestly, Ernest. Yeah. I could take this claptrap before the election, but the idea that Kamala Harris lost because of her skin color or her gender or any of the rest of it is total bullshit.
And now we got to check in on the media, because over at Piers Morgan Uncensored, one of my favorite shows on YouTube, things are getting kind of insane. Piers just hosted a guy named Ernest Owens, who's the author of a book called The Case for Cancel Culture, which kind of tells you what sort of perspective you'll be getting from this guy. And Piers, who I like a lot, absolutely destroyed him when Ernest went on an incoherent woke rant. Take a listen.
The Harris campaign. I think that there was an issue that was racial. I think it was gender, but I also think class played a major role in it.
Oh, there wasn't, honestly, Ernest. Yeah. I could take this claptrap before the election, but the idea that Kamala Harris lost because of her skin color or her gender or any of the rest of it is total bullshit. She lost because she was a terrible candidate who had no real policies, and her only playbook was to go right back to Hillary Clinton, who also lost, and say, here are my famous mates, and by the way, Trump's a Nazi and the new Hitler. That's all she had.
Another woman. You notice the pattern you just mentioned, that Trump loses to men. He loses to men, but he beats women. So no pun intended.
I'm sorry, Ernest. You sound desperate.
How does Piers being British and not being able to vote in the election make him more or less correct? Like, that's such a dumb argument. The woke people are not sending their best. I can't believe that Ernest looked this audience in the face and earnestly tried to blame, see what I did there? Racism and sexism on Kamala's loss. Yeah, racism. You know how many of these same people voted for Barack Obama who voted for Trump this time or in past elections? A lot. You know how many of the people that switched to Trump this time are minorities themselves? It's not about racism. Give me a break. Or is it about sexism? In fact, Kamala would have never been the Democratic nominee in the first place if she'd been a man, if she'd been male, because Biden said he would only pick someone for his VP who was a woman. So she got that position in part through that kind of sex-based affirmative action. And then when she loses in the position she never would have got but for her gender, she's also a victim of sexism. Like, the math is not mathing. I'm sure there are some people in some corners of America who have unconscious bias towards a female political leader or wouldn't vote for a woman, but there's others who voted for her because she is a woman, and I don't think it's a large voting demographic or the reason she lost. And I can't believe this guy actually tried to argue that American voters must all be sexist because Trump ran 3 times and twice beat women and lost to a man once. All the races were pretty close. That's a pretty small sample size to be making that kind of an inference from. And there's a lot of other factors involved in all 3 of those elections that totally distort the picture and cloud our ability to draw any sort of conclusion from that simple fact. The pandemic, Hillary Clinton's unique baggage, the fact that Kamala Harris was handed the nomination and not actually picked for it, never ran. Like, there are so many different factors that could explain that discrepancy beyond just sexism. And again, it's such a small data set that you can't use it to prove a point that big. Now, there was another absurd and kind of farcical moment on this panel when Ernest, the woke guy on the panel, tried to accuse Republicans of using misinformation and then immediately himself spread misinformation. Take a listen.
A lot of these issues and the narratives of them and the misinformation about a lot of those issues, people are going to have to just F around and find out, to be honest.
What's the misinformation? What misinformation?
A lot of, I would say that a lot of the promises, sure. Here's the thing. People's lives are going to be impacted regardless.
What misinformation, Ernest?
I'm going to get there. So the tariffs, right? About what he's going to do economically with tariffs. What is he going to do about immigration issues? His policies, the people he's going to put in his cabinet. Look, we can be here and we can go for blows and talk about who's better. Can I finish?
What's the misinformation?
Okay, tariffs, the economic plan that he has.
What about
There's some misinformation there. Project 2025, which he denied he was going to do. And now his people have said that was a part of the plan. So which one is it, right?
No, you see, Ernest, the trouble is the disinformation, Ernest, is actually now coming from your mouth. That's the problem.
He literally said, so let me correct you again, Piers. He literally said that he was not affiliated with Project 2025. Now his biggest advisors are saying that that was a part of the plan, including Steve Bannon.
They're trolling.
So I love how Piers was asking this dude, all right, you've accused Republicans of spreading misinformation. What examples? What example? And he kept not saying. And then when he was pressed on it, he said tariffs and immigration. Now, I disagree with some of Trump's views on tariffs. I think they're incorrect, but that's not really misinformation. It's more of a policy disagreement or a disagreement with how things work. And his views on immigration, I mean, to be fair, he's spread a couple stories about immigration that aren't true. And I guess you could call that misinformation, although it's kind of standard fare for politicians to use fake anecdotes to push their ideas. But basically, his ideas on immigration are policies. Misinformation is maybe around the edges about specific stories, but it's like the gist of it's real and true and just his opinion that people like and agree with. I just think it's funny because if you ask me to like pick a few examples of times Trump has spread like fake news or other things, I could think of much better examples than that, but he really floundered under the spotlight. And what makes it so hilarious is that Ernest went on to spew Democrat misinformation, which is claiming that Project 2025 is Trump's agenda. Project 2025 is this right-wing vision plan from the Heritage Foundation that has tons of kind of crazy ideas in there. I did a whole episode deep dive into it. You can go check it out if you want. Just search my name, Project 2025. And Trump has repeatedly crapped all over it, said he doesn't support it, and put out his own agenda that has very different policies on things like gay marriage and IVF than Project 2025 does. Of course, there's some overlap for sure, but it's not the same agenda, and he doesn't support it. So Democrats have really spread a ton of misinformation about that, and it's just hilarious to see Ernest double down on that in his rant about misinformation. Like, babe, maybe look in the mirror. Now, the one point he makes is that some conservatives, now that Trump has won, Matt Walsh did this, have come out and said, can we admit that Project 2025 was the real agenda? And as the guest noted, they are trolling. Trump still doesn't support a lot of what's in Project 2025. They are trolling you. And maybe some of those individuals do fully throatedly agree with, like Matt Walsh is pretty far to the right. He might agree with everything in Project 2025. But Trump himself does not, and the people who are saying now otherwise on the right are trolling you because they think your panic and hysteria is funny. And frankly, it is. That's why I wanted to show you guys this segment, because to me, it just kind of perfectly encapsulated and distilled everything that's wrong with woke media these days, and why Piers Morgan is one of the biggest people on YouTube, because he has a way of dealing with these people that is just so admirable. But what did you guys think? Let me know in the comments section below.